Hi, we're back. I'm Aileen Dashrova. This is Lissa Black-Fassett, and we've been putting some clips together regarding her son Darby's overdose from heroin, and unfortunately and sadly his death. That occurred 5 years ago when he was 23 years old, and he was attending UMass Amherst. And Lissa and her husband Dan had no idea that Darby was doing heroin. So in this clip, we're going to talk about how he got his heroin. How did that happen? And in the last clip, Lissa was talking about, and I've spoken about, how there's an expectation or a knowing that there's a great possibility that our children in high school and college will be doing particular drugs and drinking alcohol. And yet we are so surprised when heroin is one of them. And heroin is incredibly deadly. And as Lissa spoke in another clip, that oftentimes the youth and the young adults who live in a more suburban area are not as street smart. And not that we're certainly condoning the successful use of heroin, because we're not at all, but they don't know how to use it. It's rampant. Heroin use is rampant, and kids are introducing it to each other at parties as if like, oh, you want some potato chips? Here, you want, let me get you. It's no different than going to the punch bowl that's loaded with grain alcohol at a college party to say, oh, let's all just do some heroin. And I think that that's really surprising to people. So we're going to hear Darby's, Lissa's understanding about how Darby first started doing heroin and how he got it. And also some things that she's learned about how easy and also the locations of where you can get heroin.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, Darby was at UMass Amherst. He was a student, and he worked at Whole Foods up in Hadley up there, and we learned all this. We learned all the details of this from the police, who had a trail of text messages about all of the transactions that were going on. But basically, what happened was Darby got that heroin that particular night from a friend of his who he worked with. He was a friend, just like him. We're not talking about shadowy characters, we're not talking about back alleys, we're not talking about anything like that. And when I think about it later, my thought was that it so easily could have been reversed. Mm-hmm. Maybe Darby could have been this. This is not what I'm saying. Is that this was just kind of a casual transaction between friends. They were friends. Right. This young man was devastated by this. We're a little off subject here, but he served jail time. He's on probation. He wants to dedicate his life to prevention programs like this, and we've actually kept in touch with him, and that's maybe something we might talk about at some other, about forgiveness and those kinds of things. But what I'm saying is that this was just a very casual transaction. It was cheap. It was a text message. Yes, I'll whatever. I don't know what the messages were exactly, but it was basically he got it from a friend. And I also learned after all of this, and talking to my other friends who we all have kids the same age, and in my area, and I live in a really small town in kind of northwestern Mass, and I learned out later, and this was verified again and again and again, but that the heroin center of this area was this little town next to Groton, where I live. And I'm scratching my head, saying, "You've got to be kidding me!" That's where I go to get my vegetables at the farmers market.
There's horses.
There's really no. It's a little beautiful little rural town, but all the kids knew it. I mean,
so it's like go ride a horse, go pick your vegetables, and then go buy your heroin.
Horse and heroin. And so again, you're not talking about the stereotypes. Well, let's go into Lowell or Lawrence or Springfield and Worcester. Kind of these cliches that keep persisting, and you find out, and this is another thing about talking to your kids. Not that your kids are going to always. I mean, I know, your kids are not always going to talk to you and be on you. You know, I felt that we had a really good relationship, but I also know there's boundaries there.
Right.
I was a kid. I understand that.
There's autonomy. They're not supposed to tell you everything. You know.
But they know what's going on, and it's a huge problem. One of again, a little bit off topic here, but one of the programs that we were involved in starting up was to have a drop-in center where kids could go, of all, you know, no matter where they lived, but this was kind of to bring attention to the fact that this is happening in your suburban schools, you know,
right.
and I think it seems like that's still kind of a hidden thing, that we don't talk that much about it. But anyway, so that's to your point, to your question. It was very easy, and that's how he got the heroin.
Exactly, and I really like hearing you say, and all the kids knew it. You know, here's Lissa saying, the kids in that area in which she was living knew that going to this small town, this little teeny rural town, really, they all knew that was where you could get heroin. It's like, well, where were the grown-ups? Like, where were the grown-ups? Where were the parents? Where were the police? How did all these kids know that you could go?
Exactly.
It's like, go past the long picket fence and the chicken farm, you know, and turn a left, go past the pond, and there it is.
Pretty
it's like,
much,
whoa,
yes.
really?
Yeah.
And like you said, the capital of that area, where we're talking about, is a huge amount of kids are involved. You know, out in this area, sort of central Western Mass. It's incredible. And again, the piece of this is no different for you parents or whatever, you know, people sitting around. You see it in the coming of age movies and stuff like that. Kids sitting around passing a joint, smoking out of a bong. Hey, you want a beer? You know, these kids are saying, hey, you want a vial of heroin? They're treating it the same exact way. And yes, we know that there have been obviously tons and tons of accidents and trauma from alcohol use and abuse and poisoning and addictions and all of that, absolutely. And heroin is easily in that realm of drugs that our high school students and our young adults are using, and it's given and shared in a friendly, hey, let me do you a favor and get you some heroin way. And many of us growing up perhaps had that experience with, hey, I got a joint for you, or I got this for you, or whatever, you know, and so now it's needing to speak about it. And one of my friends had mentioned and written on, made a comment on our first YouTube clip, that a lot of kids, so she's a social worker and very hooked in to what's going on. She said a lot of our high school students get to heroin first by using and taking drugs from their parents' cabinets or their grandparents' cabinets. They take painkillers. We know all about that. And so that's a way for them to introduce themselves into that world of being high, being taken out of their world, feeling something very different than what they want to feel, which is their sensitivity and being freaked out by a world that doesn't feel friendly or safe to them in a lot of ways. And then they move on to heroin. And Lissa, what's your understanding about how Darby started heroin? Is there anything that you know about that? Or
what we know, not 100% sure about this, but we from piecing together what we know and from talking to his friends, that I believe he was introduced to it through his girlfriend, and it again, it wasn't, I don't think it was a long-term use. It was as a matter of months. But yeah, that was pretty much it. And
And you know, Darby had done like most, not all, but most, you know, high school students and college students had tried some stuff and gotten involved in, you know,
we knew
alcohol
that he had
drugs and things like that.
He drank and he smoked pot, and you know, we knew that.
Yeah.
And we talked about that. We talked about the risks involved in that, and the other, and all kinds of, you know, all about that. We were pretty open about that. We knew that he did that, and that's what I did when I was in college. I mean, that's what a lot of us did.
Right.
Most of us maybe did that, and you know, there's risk involved in getting out of your bed in the morning.
That's
but
right,
you know,
right.
but Mom, I think part of the thing is that I think that heroin, heroin is not in that class of risks. It's something else. And but I don't think there's an awareness in the teenage brain necessarily that that's the way it is.
Right. Right.
Once Darby got into this, though, his poetry, his writing really reflects the fact that he, even in that short period of time, that it really had a grip on him. And it's thought of as a recreational drug. Well, it's not. It's not the same. And I think we have to treat it as such, and have some sort of kind of an awareness. That's why, you know, to bring this into a greater awareness that this cuts across all barriers that we've created in our society, on
all
economic,
cultural,
social,
socioeconomic.
And it's just, and it's thought of as a not as the poison that it is, and the grip it has on people.
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, and it's you know, someone once said you don't see very many old heroin addicts because they don't survive. And I don't claim to be an expert on this at all, but I do know that it was within this environment, selling it just very casually, that it's thought of as a recreational, casual way to get high, you know, and that's the problem.
Yeah,
that's part of the problem.
And by having awareness of it, and as painful as it is, to beat it into our own heads that this is truth. That may not have been the way it was when you know, as parents, we were kids. Well, we did this and this. It's a completely different world. It's a different world. Even actually about 15 years ago in that same area, the man I went to as an acupuncturist, fantastic man, and his son died. He was in high school, and he died from an overdose, a heroin overdose, and he got it from the college student that he was working next to at a little restaurant right in town. You know, so he's hanging out, and again, with social media, people meet each other, people connect beyond what those of us that grew up without computers could even imagine. Can even imagine. So your young adult and your high school student are connecting across the globe easily and readily with whoever they choose. And it's no longer you just happen to bump into the guy who works next to you and he's doing heroin. It's just it's like wildfire. It's like wildfire. So you got to know it. You got to know it. You got to look. You got to snoop. You got to put the pieces together. As much as you don't want to believe it, take notes. Collect your data. Try to put it all together. And no matter what your child says, if you suspect drug and alcohol use, especially heroin, they're out of the equation as far as what they have to say to you. You cannot believe them. You cannot believe them. So anyway, those are some of the things that Lissa saw. Again, it includes stealing, grades dropping down drastically, sores, marks on the arms, a drop in health, a drop in communication. Let's see, I said drop in grades. So, and it doesn't have to be, you know, we used to say, well, maybe they're hanging out with some new friends, or maybe if they're driving to some other big city. Nope, they are not hanging out with new friends. It's just gotten into their circle. And it's given to them right at work, given to them right at school. These kids are shooting up before they go to classes. That's the way it is. Yeah. So, we didn't want to freak you out, but we did want to freak you out.
Yeah, we really do want to freak you out.
Because we want you to wake up.
Wake you up, exactly.
We want you to wake you up.
Exactly. So you have a chance, and your kids have a chance.
Yeah, all of our kids have a chance.
All of our kids, yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Cool. All right, we'll see you in our next clip.